This coin could be worth more than your entire retirement. And the craziest part? It might be sitting in your pocket right now. Collectors across America have been left stunned by what some of these. We're talking about a tiny, forgotten coin, a Canadian 1 cent from the year 2000 that has reached prices of worth $10,000 or more. Yeah, you heard that right. A single penny. A coin most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up. Could quietly be worth thousands. And the reason why is something almost nobody knows. Picture this. A man cleaning out his late grandfather's garage. Dust everywhere. Old boxes stacked like they haven't been touched in decades. He's not expecting anything valuable. Just memories, maybe a few tools. But then he finds a small jar. Inside, a pile of coins. Nothing special at first glance. Just loose change. Pennies, nickels, quarters. The kind of stuff you'd normally dump into a coin machine without thinking twice. But one coin catches his eye. It looks slightly different. The shine isn't quite the same. The color feels richer. The edges, just a little sharper. He flips it over. A maple leaf twig. 2 leaves. Classic design. A Canadian penny. Dated 2000. Now, most people would have tossed it aside. But something told him to look closer. And that decision changed everything. Because what he didn't realize in that moment was that not all 2,000 Canadian pennies are the same. Some of them are hiding secrets. Secrets that collectors are willing to pay serious money for. And those secrets start with something incredibly small, something you might miss if you blink. When you hold a Canadian 1 cent coin from 2000, the first thing you'll notice is its warm copper tone. It has that classic penny glow, but depending on the version, it can lean slightly more red or slightly more brown. That difference alone can mean money. Fresh, uncirculated coins, the ones that still have that fiery red shine, are already worth more than face value. Sometimes significantly more. But that's just the beginning. Because the real value comes from the details. Tiny details. The kind you need to slow down for. On the front of the coin, you'll see Queen Elizabeth II. The portrait used during that time has a mature, regal look. If you tilt the coin under light, you'll notice the fine lines in her hair, the delicate curves of the crown. Now here's where things get interesting. Some 2,000 pennies have subtle variations in the strike. The pressure used during minting wasn't always perfect. And when that happens, magic can occur. Collectors have discovered coins where the design appears doubled. Not dramatically, but just enough. The letters look slightly shadowed. The edges of the Queen's profile seem thicker, almost like a ghost image is sitting right behind it. This is called doubling. And when it's real, it can send the value skyrocketing. But you have to be careful. Because not all doubling is valuable. Some of it is just machine doubling, a common issue that doesn't carry much value. The valuable kind is rarer. It's cleaner, more defined. It almost looks intentional. And if you find it, you could be holding something extraordinary. Now flip the coin. The maple leaves. Simple. Elegant. But again, the details matter. Look closely at the veins in the leaves. The lines should be crisp, sharp. But in some rare cases, you'll see something off. Lines that don't align perfectly. Edges that look slightly stretched. Design elements that seem shifted. These are signs of mint errors. And mint errors are where things start to get really exciting. There are off-center strikes, where the design isn't perfectly aligned with the coin. Part of the image might be missing, while a blank crescent of metal appears on one side. There are planchet errors, where the metal itself wasn't prepared correctly before striking. This can cause unusual textures, or even missing sections. And then, there are die cracks. Tiny fractures in the minting dies that leave raised lines on the coin. Sometimes subtle, sometimes dramatic. One collector once found a 2,000 Canadian penny with a visible die crack running across the maple leaves. It looked like a lightning bolt frozen in metal. He almost ignored it. Almost. That coin later sold for hundreds of dollars. And that's the thing about these coins. They don't look valuable at first. They look ordinary. Which is exactly why they slip through people's hands every single day. Bank rolls. Cash drawers. Piggy banks. Garage sales. People spend them, without ever knowing what they had. But there's another layer to this story, one that makes the year 2000 especially interesting. Because this wasn't just any year. It was the turn of the millennium. And to mark the occasion, the Royal Canadian Mint produced special sets, collector editions, and coins with slightly different finishes. Some of these coins were never meant for circulation. But over time, they found their way out. Broken sets, estate sales, inherited collections. And suddenly, coins that were supposed to be protected ended up mixed in with everyday change. These versions often have a sharper strike, a more polished surface, sometimes even a mirror-like background. If you ever come across a 2,000 penny that looks just a little too perfect, don't ignore it. Because that could be a proof or specimen coin. And those can be worth far more than standard circulation coins. Now here's where the tension really starts to build. Because not every valuable coin looks shiny. In fact, some of the most valuable ones look worn, used, aged, almost forgotten. But hidden within that wear could be a rare variety. A subtle difference in the lettering. A spacing issue. A tiny misalignment that only shows up under careful inspection. There was a story about a woman sorting through a jar of old coins she'd been collecting for years. She wasn't a collector. She just liked saving change. One night, out of curiosity, she started looking up values online. Most of her coins? Worth nothing special. But then she found a 2,000 Canadian penny. She noticed something odd about the lettering. The spacing seemed off. The numbers and the date didn't sit quite right. She almost dismissed it. But instead, she kept digging. She posted photos, asked questions, reached out to collectors. And what she discovered shocked her. Her coin was a rare variety. Not something you'd notice at a glance, but something serious collectors recognized instantly. That penny sold for over $2,000 from a jar of loose change. And stories like that are not rare. They're happening more often than people realize. Because these coins are still out there. Still circulating. Still being overlooked. Now let's talk about condition, because this is where value can explode. A heavily worn 2,000 penny might only be worth a few cents. Maybe $1 if you're lucky. But take that same coin and imagine it in near perfect condition. No scratches. No discoloration. Full original luster. That's what collectors call mint state. And in higher grades, like MS66 or MS67, the value can jump dramatically. We're talking hundreds, even thousands of dollars depending on rarity and demand. And if that coin also has an error? Now you're entering a completely different world. There have been auctions where rare error pennies from around this era have shocked everyone in the room. Bidding wars. Collectors pushing higher and higher. all for a coin most people would ignore. Because in the world of coin collecting, rarity isn't always obvious. Sometimes, it's hidden in plain sight. And the 2000 Canadian penny is a perfect example of that. A coin that feels common, but isn't always. A coin that looks simple, but carries layers of hidden value. A coin that could be sitting in your house right now, waiting to be discovered. So here's the question. What if you already have one? What if it's in your drawer, your wallet, your old coin jar? Would you even recognize it? Would you know what to look for? Because now you do. You know to check the shine, the color, the details in the design, the possibility of doubling, the chance of mint errors, the subtle differences that separate an ordinary coin from an extraordinary one. And here's the truth that keeps collectors up at night. People are still finding these. Right now. In everyday places. Which means the next big discovery. The next coin that sells for thousands. Could belong to someone who almost ignored it. Someone just like you. So before you spend that next coin, before you toss it aside, take a second look. Because hidden in that tiny piece of metal could be a story, a surprise, and maybe a life-changing value waiting to be uncovered.